Good morning, guys. It's Sonia. Happy Saturday morning to you. It is time to rise and shine. So hopefully you had a good Valentine's Day yesterday. Today, as you know, is still work day for me, even though it's Saturday. I like to work half days on Saturdays. And then I like to enjoy my Saturday evenings and Sundays. And that is my family time. That is my time. Work so hard and work good hours during the week. So when you get to the point where you can take some time off, you do not feel guilty about it. You got stuff done. You applied yourself during the week, right? Quality over quantity. And honestly, if you can get a ton of stuff done in a few hours and get everything done that you need to, why not, right? Applying yourself. Hey, Brenda. Good morning, Chris. How are you, ladies? Got my cup of tea this morning. I was just noticing the tag on the side and it says, a sip of sunshine to soothe the soul. Isn't that what it is? This is an example of what I say, or what I mean when I say you are more than just your product, right? I am sipping sunshine to the soul today. So it's a good one. What's the weather like where you guys are? The sun is trying to come up, which is good because by the time I'm ready to go out and enjoy it, about maybe after lunch, hopefully it's going to be there. Hi, Brenda, the other Brenda. So join me every morning in this group at 8 a.m. for just some coaching advice and chit chat of business over coffee or a hot beverage of your choice. And so today is no different. And I look for what I'm going to talk about. I have things I want to talk about, of course, because of stuff that I wish people would have told me when I started my business. But just know, like today's topic, this was a suggested topic that somebody gave me, I think, last week. And they said, I'd love to hear you talk on like commission work, doing commission work. So I thought, you know what? It's Saturday morning. This feels like a good day to talk about doing work for other people. When people approach you, will you work and do custom jobs for them? It's a bit of a different thing than just doing your own thing. Headphones on, doing your own thing, music on, doing whatever the heck you want. You having full creative control, unless your client says you have full creative control. When you're working for somebody else, it's a completely different beast, right? You're no longer just doing it for yourself, and whatever it turns out as, you can say that is the final project. Now you have somebody else to keep happy in the mix. Completely different. Lisa, that was you. Yes. I was trying to remember, who was it? That is you. Absolutely. So I'm glad. As I'm talking, make sure you leave, if there's something that pops in your head, leave the question. So that way I can get to it down the road, really discuss it down the road. 22 in Central Illinois. Come on, groundhog, come through for us. So, okay. So yeah. So when you're doing commission work, which is basically when you're doing work for somebody else. Okay. You're no longer working for a piece, bringing it from beginning to end, and it's yours. You have control over it. So how it looks at the end, you go, yep, that is how I'm selling it as is. When you're doing commission work, I'm talking about the times when now you're doing something custom for somebody. Somebody's approached you and said, will you do something specific for me? Will you, for example, in the furniture world, will you take my piece of furniture and work on it and do something for me, like in the colors, the glazes, the whatever, the look that I want? You know, if you're in the pottery world, it could be somebody saying, hey, would you make this beautiful crock for me? And would you put my family name on it, right? You see what I'm saying? You're starting to get into new territory right there. You're doing something specific for somebody in their favorite color. You could be going into their home if if they see you do stuff from your home and now they ask you to come in and do a commission piece and now you're going into somebody's home. All those sorts of things you really have to start thinking about because you will work harder for it. And there's also legally some stuff that you have to think about for yourself. So I was going to say the very first thing that you should really think about is your basic terms. Don't walk into a commission not even knowing what you're going to charge, or for the customer not even knowing what you're going to charge them, right? This is something you have to get clear on. When you do commissions, that's another great way to have an arm of revenue for your business. But commissions generally sell for higher prices because now, like I said, they're much more complicated. You're now involving somebody else in the mix, and it takes more time, right? Because they are more complicated, there's extra steps to it, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So typically when you do commission pieces, it takes you away from your regular day-to-day grind that you do. And now you're giving somebody else a service, right? Now you're giving them one-on-one, one-on-one help, one-on-one work, right? So you have to think about it in a very different way. When we work, we can keep our head down, we can do our thing, But the moment you start working with a customer, they're going to want you to really communicate with them, right? So this is where our communication skills have to get better, because the customer is not in your head and they're wondering what the heck you're even doing, right? You want to make sure that a customer has a great experience, because that can make or break what you're about to do. We all know that negative word of mouth travels faster than positive, right? And so you want, just like when you hear people say, don't go to that movie, it was awful. And you go, oh, my friend said not to do it, I probably shouldn't do it, right? You just, you believe your friends because they're in your circle. So when you're working with a customer, you have to make sure that they're kept happy, right? Do everything in your power reasonably that you can to make sure that you're all on the same page, so that they don't go back and they don't say to their circle of friends, oh my gosh, I had the worst experience. She took my piece. She kept it for 3 months. She, did everything. It turned out awful. Oh my goodness. I thought that she knew what I wanted. It never worked out. Oh, you can hear nightmares, right? And then at the very end of the day, it can discourage other people from working with you. So making sure that when you bring people in with you to do commissioned work specifically for them, keeping them happy is very, very important, and working very hard to make sure that you're getting it right for them, right? I mean, think about yourself. If you work with somebody to get a commissioned piece, you would want it to turn out exactly like you have envisioned. And it is you, the business owner, when you say yes, don't say yes to stuff that you can't do or you can't deliver on. That is a recipe for disaster. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. So I wrote down a bunch of notes when I think about doing commissioned work and what I have learned over just the years that I have been in business doing a lot of commissioned work. These are the things that I would consider if I were you. So number one, have basic terms. So at the moment that somebody says to you, hey, would you do this for me? Then you have the opportunity in your business. People have taken notice. And now one person can represent the whole piece of the pie coming to you. And it sounds like you now have an opening to do commissioned work. But you're going to have to figure out, okay, they want me to do commission work. When the very first time somebody says that to you, then you can take a step back. You don't have to tell them right there on the spot. One of the things that I'm going to coach you on in here is learning to not do what's called the song and dance, right? You are in control. So when somebody asks you a bunch of questions, it's totally okay for you to say, those are good questions. You know what? Let me look into that for you and I'll get back to you. Give yourself a buffer, give yourself some space and some time so you don't undersell yourself. So you don't say yes to something that you're not even prepared to even know the price of, right? Come in here, talk to your friends, do what you got to do to get some advice on where you should start. This is what this community is for. So if you're planning to do commissions, this is a great way to utilize and network with other people that are here, right? That might even be in the same line that you're doing of work. That's why it's awesome to have business buddies. So don't do the song and dance, buffer yourself, space yourself. Grateful that somebody asked you, but if you've never done it before, just be honest with them and say, that's a good question. You know what? I think I can. Let me investigate that a little bit further for you, and I will circle back around with you. You can say stuff like, well, what were you thinking, right? You don't have to commit to anything. What were you thinking? What did you have in mind? So give yourself some time to go, okay, now could I do this for this person? Remember, we work in all different lines of work, right? So a commission for somebody can be different from somebody else. But at the end of the day, it's whatever niche you're in. Whatever niche you're in, right? So some things that you do can be very, very complicated. You got to make sure that you have what's called basic terms. So my basic terms was that you would pay half down and half on delivery, or half on pickup when it's done. You do not get your finished commission piece, right? You've agreed to my terms. Just like you go to work and you expect to get paid in the average, day-to-day grind of what we do, right? Mass society, going to work, the average job, you work, you get paid. So make sure that you as an artist, make sure that you as a small business owner, you're the CEO of your own business, you set your own boundaries, that you set your own general terms, and you say as well that, when you've agreed upon the work, that you tell them the basic terms, all right? And your basic terms can be that, pay comes upon pickup, upon completion, when you get to the point that the person's happy with it, and then they pay you before they take it home, right? There is nothing worse than doing something for somebody and not getting paid for it, right? And then you're like, well, now what do I do? Well, remember, girl, guy, you are the one that was in control all along. And so this is why I say in business, if you're doing, I'm just being honest with you and transparent with you, that if something is happening to you in business, And you look back and you go, oh gosh, now I got this awful feeling in my stomach. Like, why did that happen? Well, is there something that you can improve upon, right? Did you maybe not have tight enough requirements on the front? Did you not tighten up your boundaries, right? Did you allow it to happen? Or did you put your foot down, right? Did you put it on paper so that you guys are both on the same page? And there is a very, very clear exchange of what is going to happen and how working with me is going to work, right? You know, you wouldn't, I mean, it doesn't have to be a big thing. Saying you have basic terms can be as simple as, okay, yeah, absolutely. Let me shoot you over on paper what it would look like so we can be on the same page. Think about that. If you're scared, like, don't be scared. Don't be scared to do business the right way. Are you scared to pull out a piece of paper that you just wrote up in a Word document and put it and slide it in front of somebody or send it to somebody by email and say, okay, so here's what it would look like, just so I can make sure that we're all on the same page? Who doesn't want to be on the same page when they're working with another person? Like I said, you're not in their brain, right? So it's very, very important to be on the same page. So never be afraid to be on the same page with somebody else. And I mean, there's a lot of places that you go in life, right? You look down, you know exactly what's expected. You know exactly what the natural, how this is going to work, right? So make sure, and because you're doing custom work, all right, you could be, like I said, using the example of putting somebody's name on something. You're taking the time. You're already having this mass communication to get it right for somebody. Have you even taken half the payment up front yet? Like, are you even getting any money to start this project? How do you know somebody's even serious? So how do you know they even have the money to pay for it, right? It's your time. Your time is money. You will never get it back. You will be so bitter. It might be even so bitter that you have a terrible experience that you go, I'm never doing this again. But never lose, always learn, right? And that's why having general terms is very, very important. So for me, making sure that somebody pays half down. Who else does this right now? Tell me, please. How do you deal if you're already doing commission work? What is your best tips on how you set up with basic terms and the price that you expect upfront? Because very quickly, I learned this in business, that if I say to somebody who I'm already engaging in dialogue with, taking the time to talk about and go down that rabbit hole of what I could potentially do to help them. Okay, let's say for a piece of furniture, been there, done that. And then when it gets to the point, I mean, you're having a long conversation, and you're actually getting excited, like, this is going somewhere, right? Oh yeah, this is awesome. I have this awesome opportunity. Only to get to the point where you say, okay, super. Well, yeah, just all you got to do is pay me half down. So that way you're on my calendar, and then let's get it booked and let's do it. And then they disappear. You never see them again, right? They don't respond back, or maybe they say that maybe they do, and they say, okay, absolutely. Well, when I get paid, I'll circle back around with you. I don't know, 3 months down the road, I'm expecting a check. And so I think that's what I'm going to come to you. And you're thinking it's happening now, right? And you may or may not see that person ever again. I couldn't tell you how many times that has happened to me. People get excited. They see your work. They reach out. They want to know what your terms are, but you may never see them again, right? And so how sad it would be if you got excited because you love what you do and you started on your end and the person never ever followed through, right? Very, very sad. So don't do that to yourself, okay? Make sure that you're doing business as a professional and that you're very clear. Brenda says, I take half down, come up with a design, have them approve it, and then proceed forward. That is wonderful. Now, basic terms, like in terms of pricing, this can be anything, anywhere. At the end of the day, you are in control because the person is coming to you from the work to get the work, right? And what happens naturally is the more that you become good at something, the more expert hours you put into something, the more you're doing commission work for people, it just continues to grow. It's a snowball. If you're giving people what they love, they'll tell other people what they love. Those people will call you saying, I saw what you did for my friend. Can you do that for me as well? So when you get it right, it can be a very, very wonderful thing, right? But just don't give yourself a headache over this and get yourself to the point where you're like, well, this is not good, right? Like now I feel like I have more, I'm at a point where this is making me cry rather than be happy. That's a very good tip. Barb said, so she's talking about the furniture world. She says, I let them know that I'm not a furniture refinisher. Any repairs need to be done before I start. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. Any maintenance that you have to have done. I'm the painter. I will come in. I'd be happy to paint for you, but you have to get anything. So if something's loose from the wall and you want me to paint it, I'm not going to secure it back to the wall for you, right? If you need a new hinge, I'm a painter. So I'm not a carpenter. I can't fix trim, all those sorts of things. So if you let people that you know that this is what you do, this is the part that you do, right? And think about it. Have you ever worked with contractors before? And they all have their place of what they do, right? Some of them get mad at each other especially if they're working in the same place, because we all have different work ethics and we all have different standards of cleanliness and drippiness that can happen, right? Or things like that. So, one person's doing this part, and you know what? The electrician is not going to be picking up the paintbrush and doing anything else, right? We all have our set components of what we do. Brenda says, that's very smart, Barb. Absolutely. Keep putting the things that really work for you to help other people out there. So for the money, the most important part is getting half up, half at the very end. I think that's, for me, that's a general thing that I'd recommend to you guys to do. But as for the price, know that everything that you do requires your time. So not only are you now dealing with another live human being or more, right? Their family, whatever it is that you're working with. Now you're working with them. You're getting it exactly like they want, right? It's taking more time. You have to be clear and know that if somebody comes in and wants this, and then somebody comes in and wants this with this, with this, with this, this is now going to take more time for sure. You got more time of going back and forth, sending pictures along the way, letting them know what it's looking like. In the furniture world, if I paint a desk just a solid color, we know, and if you've done it before, that takes less time than when I paint a desk and now add glaze. Glaze is a tedious thing that you put on top of it. That's a whole other beast depending on the surface that you're working on, right? There's dry time in between that, right? And then the seals that go on it, and you can't rush a customer piece, so now it's taking up space in your studio because you have to bring it to completion, right? You're working around this piece now for a customer. It just becomes very different. You handle it very, very differently. And so therefore, should you charge more for commission work? Absolutely, for all those factors that we've talked about so far, right? And at the end of the day, you're not making somebody hire you. You tell them what your terms are, and they choose whether or not to accept it. But knowing your own terms and what you will stand for and what you won't stand for is very, very important, right? Remember how we talked on here that no is a complete sentence. You can say no and you can walk away if something doesn't feel right. If you get the vibe from a customer, because remember how I say we are all different people, and what you would do for somebody else, other people would not do for you. And you're a good person, right? People come to you. But at the end of the day, you don't know, you could be working with strangers. And, if there's any sort of that flag that goes up like, wow, like, I don't know if I could even deliver what this customer wants, their expectation level, especially if you work in the handmade world, handmade has character, right? No two is alike. All right. Yes. You're it's a different sort of process. It's handmade. You're never going to find another one like it. Right. And you know what, you paint something and you're painting over, I don't know, as an example, a piece of furniture, and you paint, and you know what, you could have a really cool effect going on that you're like, this is really cool. I have no idea. This is a 100-year-old dresser. And now I'm getting this reaction happening. Well, that's cool. To somebody else, they might be like, I want it perfect. For me, I understood pretty quickly on that if my customers want it perfection, I say I'm perfectly perfect with character, right? If my clients want perfection, well, maybe the best option for them is buying a piece of factory finished furniture, right? Because who knows the difference when I say handmade, homemade, and going in the store and buying it, right? You're putting layers on it. If you're in the paint world, you're manipulating it, you're working it, right? It's a different sort of finish product. It's completely different. And so asking questions is important to really get a sense of what the person likes. But I'm talking about in anything. Like you're like, if there's any sort of weirdness there, use your internal detector to be like, maybe this is just not the job for me, right? And it's okay to back out and say no, all right? I once had somebody, I'll share this with you. I once had a lady say to me while we were going through the process, quite through the process of me going into painter cabinets, she said to me, now, I'm going to give you the key to go into my house while I'm at work, but can I trust you? What? Can you trust me? What does that mean, right? Like, can I trust you that you're not going to steal my stuff? And I'm like, whoa. I'm like, okay, well, if you haven't figured me out by now, then maybe this is not the job for me, right? So did I take that job? I did not. I'm like, okay, so I'm not going to put myself into that position, because that's an example of, if there's flags for whatever reason, I'm not going to walk down a path to be accused of something, or that's just not who I am and what I stand for. And the very fact that somebody had to say to me, can I trust you in my home while I'm away? For me, that was enough of a flag to go, okay, like, I don't even want to go there. So I said, no, I said, I wrote her back and I said, I don't think this is going to be a good fit, but, I wish you the best. And, your color choice was awesome. And, and she was, but I mean, what could she do? She had to accept it, right? Because, like I said, you are in control. What would have been horrible is to accept a job and then wonder what the heck is going to happen to you when you're, to be on eggshells or something like that, right? Don't put yourself in, don't say yes to stuff that you can't do, right? If there's stuff that you positively do not want to do, like you can't stand it when you do it for yourself, don't let somebody hire you to do it for them, okay? Because are you really going to be doing it the best that you possibly can? Are they going to be happy with it? And if you don't feel like your skill set is really in this area, like, you just don't have it down to a science just yet to feel like you comfortably to do it for somebody else, maybe in your general terms, maybe on your Facebook page, maybe on your website, that's a great place to put your general terms. All right. So people, remember how I talked about this? One of my pet peeves is when people don't take the time to put their prices on their furniture or anything that they're selling and say, contact the seller. Come on, seriously. Let your customer have a moment to be able to make an idea of whether or not they want it and they can afford it, right? Share that out front. Who is going to go through the long drawn out process to message you and have these long communication of whether or not they're going to be able to afford or even want something that you're selling? Do your people a favor, put it out front, let them make the call, and then they can message you if they want it, okay? I'm going to tell you the same thing on here for when it comes to like basic terms or general terms. If you feel like you want to make a nice arm of your business working with commissions, what is to stop you right now from writing some of the very basic, the stuff that you can, like, you would say back to them on the telephone? Like, that's a great way already to start that funnel, right? So they can decide whether or not they want to work with you. Because when you have your basic terms, which says half down, half upon completion, they can then have internal dialogue with themselves and go, okay, half down. Well, I'm not going to reach out with her right now and waste her time because I can't afford it until 3 months down the road. So it's good. I know. Okay. So I'm going to watch her. I'm going to follow her or him. And then when I get to the point that I can get it, I'm going to know already like what her general terms are, right? I'm going to contact him at that point and then I can move on. So if you can, the more information that you can put out there for people, the less, honestly, it's going to be a waste of your time of trying to siphon through whether or not this is a serious lead. Is this an inquiry that maybe I could have had answered for somebody and just post it before, and then they can make the call whether or not they want to work with me? Do you see the difference? So if you can have your terms posted, that's awesome. And while you're saying right now, maybe, oh my gosh, well, how do I tell somebody? I can't post how much it's going to cost. You can't. You can make that as part of the general overall of how your thing works, right? If you have, for example, if you're redoing chairs and you have a basic idea of the starting point, just to paint a chair, if you want, you can start off with a range if you're comfortable with doing that. Like for me you could say, for example, if this is you, something like, I do chairs, I do chairs, I do tables, I do buffets, I do hutches. These are the types of things that I do. See below some photos of my work where I took it from before to after for my customer. If you have any feedback, you can throw that in there as well, what they thought about it when it was done. And you could say, for pieces that are about this size, my going rate is usually between this and this, if you want to say that, or just even a starting rate. Just to, with basic color and seal, you're looking, and obviously I'd be happy to look at your pieces and send me the pictures when you're ready for me to look at it. But, my starting price might be, I don't know, whatever you want to do, $45 to redo just a classic chair or whatever your rate is. All right, you fill in the blank. because if there's one thing I've definitely learned and learned again this week, if you saw my vlogs over on my Sonia Miller Creative channel, that a table in Florida costs completely different than a table here that I pay for, right? So at the end of the day, you got to do what's best for you. You're going to be charging what you're going to be happy and not have that pit in your stomach and not feel like you just wasted so much time going, I did all that work basically for free, because what I charged her is real. I really should have charged her more. And now I feel like I just spent a week on something and I didn't get like the rest of my work done because it took me away from my general flow of stuff. And that's why commission work generally goes for more. Do you see? It took me away from what I usually do. In my normal grind, I'm able to, really get it out. Now I'm doing white glove service. Now I'm really, taking my time. I'm doing one-on-one personal contact with somebody. There's an exchange of photos back and forth. It takes time, making sure that you're getting their approval. You're doing something to make sure it, fits their needs. Completely different beast, right? So you have to know that those are two different things. Working for yourself and then doing commission work for somebody else. And then you might think that, well, I'm not an over-communicator. I don't need to really communicate that much, do I? Over-communicate? Over-communicate in the way that they want communicated to, okay? I'm not a big texter, right? When it comes to business, I'm texting. Listen, if you're my friend, send me a text any day, right? But when it comes to doing business, again, professional, right? Do it through email, all right? Don't do it through Messenger. You can start a conversation there, but then you can say, you know what? Email me, okay? That's the best way, right? Text can disappear. You have no log of what was actually said. You can lose a phone, right? That can go away, what you have saved. Messenger, people can delete their accounts and now you don't even have a name anymore, listed, just a message with no name attached to it. Professional business should not happen by text and by Messenger, all right? Get an email, do a business email for yourself, right? Just set one up. And this is how you communicate with people. So when you're communicating with your client for commission work, most people have an ideal way to communicate, right? They tend to go to something. So you can say to them as part of doing a commission work, does email work for you? That's the way I tend to communicate. Will that work for you? And they'll say, oh yeah. Okay, perfect. Give me your email. All right. And then what you're going to do is as you're going through and working on this piece, take a moment to snap a photo. In your basic terms, you can tell people that, I will send you a photo as I move through each part of the process. I think letting your customer know what the process is. So if I say to you, okay, all right, so just know that I'm doing this for you. And so for me, I'm going to take the time. First, I've got to knead the clay out. Then I'm going to shape it. I got to let it all dry. I got to let it all solidify before we can even get to the paint and make it pretty. There's a part that I've got to build it, right? Or in the furniture world, I got to strip it down. You want it stained on the top. That there's a process. There's a curing time, right? You can't just boom, make it happen. So make sure that you tell your customers a general timeline that if all goes well, you know what? If the weather is great, the humidity works fine, and everything works out as planned, then this should be dried by this day here. These are the stages that I go through. When you explain to them what you're going to be doing, sometimes they don't even realize all the work that goes into it. They just love the final piece. So if you say to them, I got to do this, and then I do this, and then once this is completed, then I'm going to go back in on the following day. So it's about 3 days in, and we're going to be doing this. And the 4th day and the 5th day, and then hopefully by the 7th day, if everything is all dried and the weather plays really nice with us, because I don't control Mother Nature's thermostat, right? And so just be honest with people, tell them that, yeah, looking at the weather this week, it looks like it's going to be good. So everything should be drying properly, which means I would imagine maybe like 7 to 10 days, it'll be good for you to pick up. And I'll send you pictures as I go along the way, and then I'll let you know when it's ready, right? Remember how we talked about before, we kind of touched on this a little bit before about making sure you have general terms set up that once your piece is finished, that you are expected to pick it up within X amount of days, right? Give a reasonable amount of time. And then that is just my terms, right? Otherwise it becomes property of XYZ. You can put whatever you want. Have you ever done that before? Have you ever classic example for us furniture pickers and junkers. Have you ever gone to places, I know I have, where there's salvage yards, that sort of thing, like where it's just good junk? There are sites like that, like salvage sort of junk, and like a Habitat for Humanity kind of place. And you go there and you buy and you go, I can't take this home right now, but will you guys allow me to come back in a day and pick it up? And they say, oh yeah, or Goodwill. Yeah, we allow 3 days for you to come get it up. Otherwise it goes back on the floor again, right? If you don't have the specific way you do business on paper, right? So I don't know about you, but I felt the pressure before, right? Like where I have bought a piece of furniture and now I go home and now, something happens. Matt says, well, we can't drive the truck right now because I got to get in the garage, Sonia, because you know what? I didn't know, but oh my gosh, yeah, the brakes or something, right? And you're like, now how am I going to get that piece? Oh my gosh, you got to get back and get that piece. I bought it, right? And if I don't get back and get it, then I'm going to feel horrible because I'm that person that leaves something, buys something, leaves it there on the floor. And if I don't, they're going to put it back on the floor anyhow, right? So you can either, tell your person, because you're doing custom work and you're trying to keep them happy. You can say, this is how it works. If for any reason you can't come pick it up within that span of time, just reach out to me and let me know so we can make further accommodations. Most people will be honorable and go, okay, no, I completely understand. I want to get it. I want to take my custom piece home, but also I'll get it out of your way. Absolutely. I know how busy you are, right? So you remember, there's a saying that's just in life in general, that you train people how you want to be treated. What you allow will continue in your life. Okay. Think about that for a second. This is just life or business. All right. What you allow will continue to happen to you. All right. Because you're not doing anything, right? It's the same thing over and over again. So in business, what will you stand for? What will you allow, right? What will you allow? What is what's your basic, like, these are the basic guidelines. These are my basic posts. This is my fence. We work within it, right? We work within it. I have gotten text after midnight, okay? I've gotten texts from customers after midnight. And it is awful to be in bed and to be waken up by that, right? That's a boundary. That's a boundary issue, right? So for me, I turn my phone off at night on airplane mode. I put on do not disturb. You are not going to get me at night, because if, customers who have your number, remember, just because you wouldn't text somebody after midnight does not mean that somebody else would, right? So, and then you can say to that customer, oh, yes, I didn't get your text till in the morning. Do me a favor. Would you send me an email? That's the best way to get me. And they'll probably go, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Or they'll say, yes. Oh, I forgot you told me that. Yes, I'm so sorry. Oh, yes, right? Remember, you train people how you want to be treated. You set up your own boundaries. You are in control. Bridget says, I even tell clients how I clean the hardware. Be very specific. Absolutely. And that's true too, Brenda. Text can always be misinterpreted. So true. Maggie says, commission work is a rabbit hole I refuse to go down. Tread lightly. It's great when you set it up properly, but when you deal with other people, there is another factor. I have talked to creatives before that the moment they catch on that a customer is going to be an extra level of maintenance, which requires your time, which, that's a different ball game, that they may charge more because they know that dealing with this client is going to require more of their time and patience. You get what I'm saying? Because again, everybody is different. And so the more that you can be clear up front with, what you can do, what you can't do, and be honest as well, like, okay, I can do this for you. My personal recommendation is if you put white and black together, think pizza shop floor, think zebra, all right? So when I've been into homes for people, remember, you're the professional. You've been playing with the colors. You've been playing with how things come together. You know how things work with each other and what, how it works best. And so don't ever be afraid to tell the customer that, okay, so this is what you're thinking, right? Is that what is it that you want to achieve at the very end? Would you consider putting whatever in here to soften it, right? But at the end of the day, the customer gets to pick. You have to do it. You cannot put your interjection unless they give you permission to do that, right? And so this is why, say it with me, sample boards, samples of whatever is so important along the way for all the steps that you do. So then they can't say that you didn't tell me, right? There's a process that is there going back and forth. So just protect yourself. It can. She says, commission work is a rabbit hole I refuse to go down. She says, I've seen too many problems when my daughter did professional wedding cakes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that might take the cake, quite literally, Maggie. If I was thinking about, we've all seen Bridezilla. Oh my gosh. I can't imagine the amount of pressure and perfection, and that's a whole other ball game. Right? And there are people that do it so well because they've learned how they understand the personalities, they understand, the things that you might get from other people, like the types of behavior, or just, you get what I'm saying, right? Somebody that wants that day to go so well, and you're a part of it now because you said yes to the dress, right? You said yes to doing something for them, so now you got to do your part. And so, yeah, so like I say yes to stuff that that you can definitely do, because if not, oh my gosh. Candy says, would it be smart to write this up and have a customer sign to make it professional? Yes, that is what I did. So basically, I had a book into my storefront at the time that I was doing commission pieces. And I had a book, and I had all my blanks in the front of my binder. All right. And then as people would come in, right, so I would message them, I would tell them my terms, and they came in and they agreed. They came to my store, they dropped off whatever to me to work on. And then I would say, okay, so here's what I was talking about. Just come over here for a second, just so we're on the same page. So this is how it's going to work. So because I don't want you to have any questions, I want this to be good for you. Okay, so perfect. You dropped it off, 50% on. So that means it's going to be $37.50 is half of what you got to pay today. And the person will be like, oh yeah. But you can just write a general form out, and you can leave a line. So with every customer thing that you do, you write in exactly what they want, right? I mean, think about when you go to Chipotle's and, somebody's taking your order, right? And you say, yep, I want the bed of lettuce, but except I'm going to have grilled peppers and onions. Oh yeah. And also add me a dash of guacamole and some sour cream, right? All those things add up for you paying extra. So all the extra things that people add on for you to do for them, why wouldn't you think that a basic salad and then the whole thing this is not going to cost more, right? All these things, there's a cost for that business built in, right? They build it, whatever it is, use it and apply it to whatever in your life. But yes, just like when you buy from, if you work with other companies and they fill in what your needs are, right? Have a basic terms, outline a place for them to sign it at the bottom and you to sign it at the end, so you're all on the same page. So yes, all right, you drop it off right here, perfect. I would leave a space for, so what colors are we using today? I would put in like, have you seen the sample? So for me, I'm going to take you around my store and go, okay, so this, you want the teal color, right? The teal river jump monkey paint on it. So this is what it's going to look like right here. You're happy with that? Perfect. Because people are very visual people that will help them be able to make a decision if in any way possible that they can hold it. The next best thing is going to make sure you have lots of photos or a way for them to be able to see lots of, like if somebody says to me, Sonia, I'm thinking about buying Teal River, but I don't know the difference between Teal River and Bahama Jade. Pictures are important. All right. This is one of the ways I love that the Jug Monkey Paint Projects groups works, because if anybody at any point is having a problem with like, I can't really tell, like, will that color look good on mine? I will always say to them, jump into our free group, the Jug Monkey Paint Projects group. And if you put a post out, I want to see some projects with Teal River. Does anybody use that? A lot of times that's where those posts come from, because people will see enough visual examples that it will reinforce in them to know, yep, this is what I want, right? Because we're visual people. That's why samples are so important. People are very visual. Absolutely. So let me see. So we talked about the basic terms, setting them up, right? Where to put them. We talked about doing samples, right? Sample bracelets, sample pieces that you've done for other customers before. And just so I don't forget that, remember that if you didn't take a photo, so let's say, for example, this is important in the customer, especially when you're working with customers. Number one, if you're going into their homes and you're doing work, you have to make sure that you look into your state to protect yourself when it comes to like doing personal contract work for people, right? So for me, when I started going into homes, I had to get my contractor license, okay, to be a licensed contractor, to be able to do what I had to do to go into homes, all right? Make sure you're protecting yourself legally and doing that. So that's just kind of a side note. Look up. That's if you're doing services in somebody else's homes. What does your state require? Oh, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So when you go into people's homes, as an example, if you are, or if somebody is sending you a picture of like, oh my gosh, I bought this from you. I love it so much. Here it is. Don't just put that on your website without asking, because if you didn't take the picture, you don't own the picture. Don't go down the path of you've done this all great and now you put a picture online of somebody's home and they did not give you permission to do so. They might have only shared that with you, not intending for you to share it with the entire world, right? So just don't make your customer upset. If at any point you want to take a, I've done this before when I say, oh my gosh, can I use that photo? And sometimes people will say, let me take a better picture for you. That means that, you know what, that picture was meant for you only. And give them a moment. They'll tidy up the background, make it presentable before they put it on. They could be proud and feel good about something you're putting out there. So make sure you don't any future photos of your work that comes from your customer that you ask. All right. And if I'm in somebody's home and I'm filming, when I'm doing work for somebody, I'm saying, is it okay if I take a photo here? Would that be okay with you? Okay, perfect. But remember, one of the things that I always did as part of when I work for people is let them know that work that I do will become part of my marketing. And so just know that I will be taking nice photos, obviously, when I'm there, right? And that became part of what they signed off on. Like, yep, absolutely. Yeah, sure. I know what you do here. So if Sonia's going live from my kitchen, I totally know to expect that I'm not going to walk in and I've given her permission to do that, right? So just make sure that in the social media meets doing work for private people world, that you have approval to put something out, whether it's in their home, something personal. I mean, there are times too that your personal work, you could be doing something so personal for somebody, because we all do different commissions for different people, different ways, right? I mean, you could be doing things like memory bears. You could be doing things that, are very, very gentle, fragile, very sensitive topics. So you have to even ask sometimes about, is it okay if I put this out there, right? Because maybe somebody's name is attached to it. You could even have their name onto it. So be very, very careful. Good. Creative Stacy says, I always ask if I can share pictures. Yes. And most people, honestly, I don't think I've ever had somebody who told me that I couldn't share a photo. Most people will say, as long as I'm not in it, as long as I'm not in it. Absolutely. Right. So you're not going to give away locations of people's homes. You're not going to take anything, you're not going to scan their room or anything like that. You're not going to show their house when you're into it. You're there to do a job, right? And so you might be doing some social media promotion as part of what you're doing. In fact, it will be a good idea if you did, right? At the end of the day, take a photo, show people where you started, where you are now, but definitely protect the privacy of people and ask yourself that if you had somebody come into your home to do something for you, or you gave them personal information and they were making something for you out of that, would you want it all over the internet, right? So again, just treat other people how you would want to be treated. Chris says, I did dressers without knobs. Customer said she would do that and send photos, none sent. Yeah. Sometimes you will never hear from people again. Everybody is very, very different, right? But for something like that, if you were doing it in your studio, not in their home, in your studio, there's nothing to prevent you, right, from taking a picture of that. I mean, it's your studio. There's no personalized information on it. Don't give a name or anything like that. And just you can say something generic, like working on this for a customer. Here's where we are so far. She's going to be picking out some beautiful knobs. What kind of knobs do you think she should pick? Barb says at craft shows, I walk people around the booth to see samples. That's good. Yeah, to see samples and colors. Yep. And the funny thing is that we all see stuff differently. Like, I'm serious, like our eyeballs literally see stuff differently. I swear I can look at a color. Me and Matt will have these debates sometimes, and I'll say, that's this. And he'll say, no, it's this. Well, I mean, look at the classic stuff that goes around the internet, right? Is it a blue dress? Is it a pink dress? What color are the shoes? So yes, when you're on the same page, it's going to really help. So let me see if there's anything else that I have that we talked about, the timeline, communicating, yep. So yes, while commissions can be much more difficult to navigate, you can make a lot of money from it. and you can get really, really good at. And what you learn, like I'm always somebody that when I go through an experience, I take a moment to go, what could I have done better? Like, what would have even made this better if I had done this? Remember, if somebody gives you a piece of feedback, whether good, whether negative, take that as some like feedback to yourself of how you can improve. And then, just continue to improve, right? I think we covered everything that I had down here today. Does anybody have any quick questions for me on this topic of just commissions and wrapping your mind around it and understanding that it can be an arm of revenue? But just like all that was a lot to say, it's just extra discussion that happens, right, when you do commissions. And so make sure that that you're charging appropriately for whatever it is that they want done. And then I'll leave you with this, because this has happened to me before as well. That if you I started to read Jan's thing and I'm like totally lost it. What was it I was gonna say, Jan? She had a tip and I'm like, ooh, tip. See? Let me think. What was it? Oh yeah, okay, I got it. It came back to me. If you, on the heels of what I was saying, all right, treat people how you want to be treated. Has there been times that I have quoted somebody something, and then by the time it's done, I have so much time into it and I didn't realize it was going to take that long to do? But I've already quoted them a price, right? I've already, looked at something, had multiple discussions with them, looked at pictures, went back and forth, and they've already paid me. I'm now already doing the work, all right? Has there been times at the very end where I've gone, I should have charged more for this? Absolutely. Has there been times that you've ever had that feeling? Probably, because we're human and that happens, right? What's not cool is when it continues to happen and then you're really not happy with yourself, all right? And then you become really upset, and then everybody around you has to hear it. If you ever have a situation where you undercharge somebody for something, my best advice is to just eat it. Just do it. Just do it, because you know what? Your customer didn't do anything wrong. They purchased it at the price that you said it would be. And there is nothing worse than ordering something, somebody starting on something, and then coming back and telling you it's going to be more money. All right. That is an awful feeling. All right. When you're like, well, I would have hired you if I thought it was going to be that much. You gave me the estimate, or you gave me like the price point, and now all of a sudden you want me to pay this much. Has there been times that I've undercharged? Like, I'll give you an example. The first time I ever painted a wine cabinet in a kitchen. You look and go, oh yeah, okay, there's a wine cabinet, no biggie. All right, perfect. Then you paint the wine cabinet. Okay. If you've ever painted latch, right? I think it's latch. Like it looks like, the wine, right? Where you can't even stick your hand sometimes in through the little pieces. All right. How are you going to paint that? And it's attached to the kitchen wall. And you have to somehow do all that. And it takes you hours to paint a wine rack. And you're like, I'm totally thrown off. I had no idea that it was going to even take this long, right? Stuff like that happens. You just do it because you're like, next time, if I'm ever giving somebody a price for a kitchen, I'm going to make a mental note that if they have a wine rack, that is going to be an extra cost, because it is a pain to paint, right? You learn those things. Claudia says, I do that all the time. I'm my worst enemy, right? That's just being lattice work. Thank you. That's just normal. But what's being a good business person is, and that's why every job is different, right? That you do. So give yourself space to know that what you price one job at doesn't mean that you're going to price the second job at, right? People, and still do, email me all day long going, what would you charge to paint my cabinets? And there's not even a picture attached to it. And I don't even paint cabinets anymore, right? I did that for almost 2 years of my life. I was very successful at it, but decided that I'd pivoted in business, and I enjoyed the creative side more, right? I missed being creative. And so when people email you and you have, how much would you charge to paint my cabinets? Well, do you have a wine rack? Do you have a desk? Do you have an island? I once painted a kitchen that had 55 doors into it, which was the biggest kitchen I'd ever done. And I'm not talking about drawers. I'm talking about swing open doors, 55 of them, right? And I did it. Boy, learned a lot. So you have to know that. And I think somebody said here with pricing, who was it? How do you break out pricing? Well, Lisa, you're just going to have to okay, so if you're doing commission work for somebody, you're probably already just doing one-off selling right now, right? So what is it right now? A painted mug that you would sell it for. All right. Now you're taking time out to work with somebody else. So yes, I'd be happy to give you a custom piece, but now they're going to have to tell you what they want. If they say they want words on it, if they say they want it textured, if they say they want to have glaze on it, then you add all those extra things onto it, right? But doing something custom for somebody is taking you away from the rest. So people expect that if you're going to give them one-on-one service, that you are always going to up your price, right? Because yeah, you're dealing with somebody else directly now. You're creating for them. That's a service that you're doing. But so the base price for the base pricing, right? How do you break out pricing? You have a general idea of how much you would charge for a chair to paint, right? Then what else do they want you to do on top of it? To start adding things on top of it and coming to your final price point. At the end of the day, you just have to be happy with what your price is, because it's up to them to say yes or no, right? But you can set your price and be very, very happy with it. You know, you're stopping what you're doing to do something for somebody else, right? And they are going to own a piece of your original work that you did. Let's see here. Chris says, I had an artist do that to me, upcharged and didn't paint as we agreed. Oh, that's awful. That is absolutely awful. Yep. Many times I've just eaten the cost because that's what I said, right? So exactly. So yeah, absolutely. Lisa, I have a video, a pricing video. I put it on my other channel before I started here. Did you watch the pricing video? And I gave you 3 ways. Like if you want specifically like how I price stuff, there's 3 ways that I think about it. And I break it down and I give examples. Did you see that one? If not, then if you go to just the Sonia Miller channel, type in pricing, like under my channel search, you'll see it. And a lot of people said it's been really, really helpful. Like if you want to like get into particulars. Brandy says, I strongly dislike pricing. It is a constant battle in my head. I want to be fair, but also make a profit. Yes, you got to make a profit. Otherwise, you just have a hobby, right? And your time will be spent doing stuff for people and communicating with people, like in terms of commissions, to the point where you won't have time to even work on your own stuff, right? Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, go watch that. I like did a video specifically on pricing and 3 ways to do it. And just that's all it is. Like it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. You just pick the one that works best for you. You're in control, right? Because you're the business owner. So you can set whatever price that you want to set on anything. And at the end of the day, if you ever, and I also did a video, watch that one and then watch a second video. And it says, how do you know when it's time to raise your prices? And I give you a bunch of ways how I know that it's time for me to raise my prices. Those are the clues. So I would watch both of those back to back. And I think you would come out the other side feeling like, okay. But at the end of the day, like pricing that one person sets compared to what pricing somebody else sets, you have to be happy with it, because different people are at different parts of their business as well. There might be more demand on somebody else because they have a portfolio of, I don't know, they've just been known forever to do something, right? So that's why there's no time like the present to start building your own portfolio for commissioned work, and keep on doing that. Candy says, a trick from Etsy on pricing is the West Coast always has higher prices than the East Coast. That is true. Absolutely. Let's see. What was the tip as well? Let's see here. Maggie, no, it was somebody here. Oh, Jan, she says, hot topic, heard another Google tip yesterday. We're all about the tips in here. If you want to look for a particular subject and don't want to see anything else, put it in quotation marks. I've never done that before. So she's talking about Google. So going to Google, and if you don't want to see any other topics other than what you're looking for, put it in quotation marks. So I'm guessing that means that it will only bring up articles that have those keywords, that SEO that we were talking about this past week, and not even like, because did you ever see it on Google where when you Google, it'll say like, it'll have strikes through words. Like these are the articles that have these words. These articles are here as well, but it contains this word, but it strikes out this word. So it probably sounds like you lose all that and it only gives you exactly what you're searching for. I'm going to have to try that. Debbie says, since I'm new at this, I feel I need to charge less. Is there something to be said? And I've talked about this before on here. Is there something to be said that when you're first starting out, that there is a portion that you're learning at, I always liken it to, somebody who's spent their life in, let's say, management, somebody who's spent their life in management in whatever, I don't know, in food service. Okay. They spent their life in management in food service. They can go in with a resume and they have a history behind them. They're not going to go in not having any history in management and demand to get to the management position, right? They want that management pay and everything that comes with it. Okay. They want all the stuff, all the perks that comes with it. And anything in life, you always start off at ground zero, right? You start off with zero. We start off with one follower, and you grow from there, right? So I always like it at when you're starting off in business and you're trying to get your name out there. Do you remember how we talked about there's a session we had in here? And what did I call it? I think we talked about like starting off from scratch. And I think it was a part of the topic we were talking about, even some stuff that you can do for free, right? Or free and discounted. That's what it was. Free and discounted, using it in a way to leverage when you first start off and you need projects in your portfolio and you need to have some referrals. Go back and watch that session. It was like an hour-long chat in here. Do you guys remember that? We talked about using discounts to your advantage to leverage your work, to get the word out there, but using it in a controlled fashion at the very beginning, because as you're growing, you need people to trust you. You need people so that you start to collect the people. Remember that? Barb says, I appreciate the work someone does, but do not price by what shops think they can get for it. They also have to add in overhead. I try to think what I would be willing to pay. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. Good advice. At the end of the day, remember this too, that don't price from your own pocketbook, because you could be super good at something, right? And you're starting off right now, you're super good at something and it comes very, very easy for you, even though it's hard for other people to do. People will pay you for that service because you're so good at it, right? And just because when I say pricing from your own pocketbook, I know it because you know what? I built my business from the ground up with like $1 in my bank account, right? I told you guys many times those stories. And so if I had to price for my own bank account, I could only afford free furniture and $5 furniture. But was my work worth more than that? Yes. So don't price from what's in your bank account or what even necessarily what you would pay for that, because everybody, again, there's been times where I wouldn't have been able to even pay any money for it, right? Because I didn't have any money in my bank account. So never price from your own bank account. If you even, because you might be just starting out, but you're absolutely brilliant at doing something, right? How much, just because you have this much in your bank account doesn't mean that people will not pay that much for this, because that's your talent. That's your gifting. Do it, right? Make sure that you price it appropriately. And then if you go back and watch that video where I talked about, and maybe I'll have to put them on this channel too. You know what? I think I'll put them on this channel as well for Lisa as well, just so you guys don't have to go back on the other channel. That's why I decided to do this channel, just really carve it out for business. So maybe I'll put in the next 24 hours, repost those videos here on this channel so you can easily find them. I'm going to do that. I promise I will do that today or tomorrow. So once you have listen to those videos, one of the things that I say is that when you're starting to sell stuff, how do you listen to the video where it says, how do you know if you need to increase your rates? When people start saying, you're crazy to sell it at that price. You know how much money you could get for that, right? So if you're pricing from your own pocketbook, but every time you put it out there, it sells just like that, like to the point where it's gone, and you put all this work in it, you're feeling bitter at the end, maybe that could be one of them. But it's like you can't even keep them in stock, then that, I have room to raise my rates here, because I can't even keep them, right? People are just buying them up left, right, and center. So therefore, it sounds like you have a little bit of, and you don't have to I'm increasing it from $25 to $75. Go in between somewhere. Add an extra $10 on or $5 on. You'll probably even feel wonderful about that, right? But I think that video will make you think as well, because we've all had triggers in our head of going, should I charge more, and things that take it outside of how you feel, because our feelings get in the mix. I don't have any money in my bank account. What would I pay for that? You know what I mean? When really that's your situation. That's not somebody else's. Good. Yeah, we'll do that for you, Lisa. Absolutely. So either today or tomorrow, you'll see them go up. But come out the other side going that you have to separate yourself. You and your work, completely different things, right? You're doing the work, yes, but don't take it personal. And I think the more that you can learn to separate yourself, even when you're doing commissions, that's something that I really tried to work on as well. When you're working with people, you're doing services for people, and people get, I'll use the word picky. Okay. Well, people get like, well, what about right here? What about right here? Right. You have to take a step back. Don't take it personal and go, yeah, I can see what you're saying right there. Do you want me to put like a little bit of extra, even though you already done it, but you have to take a step back, and you have to separate yourself from your customer and the wall. Okay. You're not the wall. So if somebody says that they don't like the way the sun is shining and the way the paint looks right there on the end of their counters, or whatever it is, insert whatever, we've all been there, then instead of you taking it personal, that because that edge of that cabinet, that side of that door right there, that's not you, right? You can say to somebody, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I can see how the sun is hitting it there for you. I'd be happy to put a little bit more paint on that for you. Would that make you feel better? No big deal. Let me just do that real quick for you, right? Don't take that personal. So when you're doing work and you're putting it out there, as much as we're creatives and we wear our heart on our sleeve, and yeah, you can take it really personal some days where you're to the point where I'm not going to do this anymore. This like hurts my heart. Why would people be that mean? The longer you go in business, the stronger that you get. You just learn to expect those people. You bring out sometimes, feelings in people that's not even you. Again, it's not even you. It's just somebody else that projects it onto you, right? I am not the dresser. I can fix anything on the dresser. That doesn't mean there's something wrong with me. All right, my friends. Well, I think you're awesome. We've been here for an hour talking about commission work, but I hope that helps you just to steer you in some ways that when you're doing commission work, that is a bit of a different beast, right? And go into it knowing that. Knowledge is power. Say it with me. So I would love it if you guys, say it with me, will give this video a heart, a thumbs up, leave me a comment if you haven't already done so. Take a moment to share this video with somebody who could use some extra advice and best tips on if you're going to get into the world of commissioned work. All you have to do is hit the 3 dots at the top or hit the share button down below. Yay, good. Stacy says, everybody have a great day. Happy Saturday. Let's go get it done so we can begin the weekend relaxation. I started last night watching a series that I'm excited to get back to today. Fancy it. It takes place in a big old home. I love old homes. And it's on Netflix. It's the one that's called Lock and Key. Anybody else out there watching it? It's going to be perfect. Today is going to be perfect. It's a snowy day outside. I am just planning in the afternoon to sit down and just to relax a little bit and catch up on some more shows, some more, what do you call it? Yeah, episodes of it. So far, it is so good. You are so welcome. All right, my friends, have a wonderful day. Remember, you are always in control. Nobody can make you feel how you don't want to feel. And if you have it a moment, shake it off and go, how I feel today is up to me. What I get done today is up to me. How fast my business grows is up to me, the work I put into it. If I want to relax today, I can relax today, right? Do what you got to do. Protect your peace. And remember, you're always in control. I think that's what I want you guys to take away. You're always in control. Have a great Saturday too. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Sandra. All right. See you tomorrow. Bye.